First time I went to Washington, D.C., I was 25 years old, and I was so amazed at the domes, you know, little rotundas and stuff. Of course, they're all steel and plaster and stuff like that. And I thought, man, I'd love to build one of those. Well, there's nobody in Oklahoma that's going to hire my dumb ass to come out and build a round roof.
The building is 72 feet tall with a domed roof and a huge copper eagle on top. It's like a cathedral on the prairie, and it's being built by my great uncle, Jay Branson, working almost entirely alone for nearly 7 years.
I just do it off the cuff. Middle of the night, I'll come up with some crazy idea and I'll just come out and put it together. I drew one segment and that's pretty much all I ever worked off of. Most of the time I haven't had to back up and do things twice. I've always had to, you know, I think it through really well usually. Just kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do and just started doing it. The way I kind of got started is my wife had just passed away, kind of unexpectedly. Still had 3 kids at home. The older ones had kind of turned my house into a shrine, if you will. You come home, you see pictures of her hanging around on your nightstand and one thing and another. It was starting to kind of get me. I knew I had to stay mentally focused. And I thought, you know, I've always wanted to build a round building. So I went out here and started building a round barn. Of course, my neighbor, she come walking over a few days later. What are you building out there, Jay? I said, well, I'm going to build me a round shop for my motor home. She said, well, you'd ought to make that into a wedding venue. I thought, huh. That's a pretty good idea.
I've just been intrigued, fascinated, admire. You know, I've always been interested in architecture without architects. I wasn't sure whether, you know, he was for real or not. And then I started seeing this and it was like, holy cow.
I know when I met my new wife, Valerie, it was about 6 or 8 months later.
I thought he was crazy. I thought, there's no way one person can do this. There's no way, but it's coming.
She says, you realize we've been in construction mode ever since I married you?
I said, it's Jay's mistress. I said, he spends more time out there than he does with me.
And of course, she didn't know she was going to be helping me on it too, you know.
When we were on the ground, I helped a lot, but it's been fun.
It's taken much longer than he planned, but life happens. The Oklahoma heat, the bitter cold, the wind always. And while he doesn't talk about it much, Jay is fighting prostate cancer. As his round barn rises, strangers have started pulling in. Jay has put out a guest book, but what most people don't realize, at least initially, is that Jay is a self-taught architect. It just comes naturally. You know, Marshall, when I lived there as a kid, there was probably, I guess, maybe 300 people. My brother, John, that's 10 years older, he had took a job working for a lumberyard, and he called me on the phone one night and said, hey, if you come over here when you get out of high school, or get out of school, he said, I'm thinking about quitting and going out on my own. He said, come over and go to work with me. I said, okay. His wife, Barbara, had went somewhere and bought a Reader's Digest book on how to do things. And that's how he and I kind of got started.
I've seen dome structures. I mean, you have too. That's not new, but what's different? You didn't care. It's on the circular walls.
To do something round, you either have to fragment it. You know, what he did with these block systems was cut it down into pieces small enough that then he could create this radius here.
That's what it looks like on the inside. They go together like a Lego blocks. It took a while.
That was your therapy.
Oh yeah, that's my therapy. Of course, this is going to be a wet bar right here. I've kind of decided I think I'm going to do. There's going to be a handicap elevator right over there. This is the siding that's up in there, and if you look at the knots in that yellow pine, they're kind of a reddish color. The trim work that goes around it is all going to be cherry wood because it brings out the color of the knot.
How many lights did you say you're
There's
going up?
5,200 feet, I think, is how many lights. This is the bridal suite, and kind of got to get an idea of some measurements for the bathroom for the brides. There's people that do more amazing things than I've ever dreamed of doing with concrete, you know, but it is what it is. I just done it the poor boy way.
It's evolving into something really special without anybody other than him kind of conceiving of it.
I really look forward to the success, you know, to see it happening, to see the planning going on and people enjoying it and appreciating how much has gone into it.
He feels such a need to get it done for his family, you know, because who else could do this? So now I think he's at the point of trying to build demonstrations of different parts of it so that if something happens before he's able to finish it, that there's enough information that others could come in and follow.
I'd like to have this thing done in a year if I could, but I don't know if I'll make it. I mean, I'm gonna try my hardest, but we'll see, you know.